Wandering Winder to talk more Dominion openings, and yeah, we've gotten to the doozies of covering the openings out of allies, which is to talk about how you're using your one favor with a bunch of the allies in the opening. Some of which are incredibly complex. Some of which don't come up at all because you it scores you points at the end, or you're taking an extra turn, or you need multiple favors or something, right? Some of it doesn't really matter. And yeah, one of the nine favor giving things, what are they called? Liaisons, is going to give you five favors instead of uh, instead of one in the open. But I'm not going to cover that case because it's just, oh my gosh, it's so rare. It's like 1 in 1,000 games. These are already only like 1 in 100 games or something, I think. I mean, I don't actually know how the calculations work because I don't quite know what process is getting used to generate these, and you may use a different process at home. So, whatever. This is all pretty rare for this to come up, but I do think it's worth looking at these and interesting to look at anyway. So, Band of Nomads is the one we're doing first of all today. When you gain a card costing 3 or more, you can spend a favor, and again, you start with one for plus a card, plus an action, or plus a buy. So, plus a buy, I guess you could use in the opening. I'm not going to worry about that because I think it's going to be quite rare to come up. Maybe there's some point where you have a 5-2 and you'd like to open 3-2-2 instead of just that whatever else. Great. You're going to know it when you want it. Just in that case, remember to buy the 3 before the 2 so that you actually get the trigger of this and can use the plus buy. Fantastic. But what I really want to talk about is using the plus card in the opening. And there's a few cases for that. So if you have 5-2, turn 1, you buy the 5, you trigger this thing, so you draw a card, and then you have a small chance of playing your 5 cost on turn 2, and a large chance of playing it on turn 3. So great. 2-5, bit worse, but pretty similar. You can trigger drawing the card, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time on those because, I don't know, it's pretty straightforward. What I want to spend time on is the 4-3 and the 3-4. So you've got a couple options, and obviously a lot's going to depend on like what it is that you actually want to buy. So I'm going to talk about it in the case where what you're buying that costs 3 or more is a silver, because it's already rare enough that I don't want to spend too much time looking at specific other cases. So silver's the one that's going to be available. So you buy the silver, and sure, it'll do the aqueduct thing, which won't usually be a thing. So if we wanted, so there's two options basically that we have. We could trigger this right, well, there's more than two options. We could trigger this right now. We could trigger it after we buy another silver on turn 2, or we could keep the token. Obviously, keeping the token going to be dependent on how valuable it is later on. But we want to talk about how valuable it is to use now or to use later. If we draw the card here, we're 40% to draw an estate, right? These cards are 2 estates and 3 coppers. 40% to draw an estate. If we draw an estate, then next turn we've got a 1/7 chance to hit 5. That's going to be if we draw exactly the silver as our 5th card. Whereas if we don't draw the silver, then we're going to be 50-50 on turn 3 to hit 5. Let's look at this. So we drew the estate, so we hit our 40%. But then here we didn't draw the silver, which is the most likely scenario. And yeah, we lost our 50-50 as well because there's a copper on bottom, and we drew a copper rather than one of those things being an estate. The other way you can miss 5 is if the silver bottom decks. So yeah, so this can happen. We're also, so if we go back here, if we take this card, we're 60% to draw a copper here. If we draw a copper, then there's no way, because the 4 cards will have our estate, copper, there's no way to hit 5 on turn 2, but you're a lot more likely to hit 5 on turn 3. You're like 65.7%. So I think overall, if you do the plus card on for turn 1 use of the plus card on a 4-3 opening exactly, you end up being like 5-7, 71 point something percent to hit 5 on turn 3 at the latest. And it's worth noting in this case, right, turn 3, and then you're shuffling pretty soon, like with only 1 card at the turn 3. So you've got real chances, if you would hit the 5, to be able to play it on turn 4, or if not, then turn 5. So that if it works out, it's a significant advantage over just like opening silver, because you're getting it like a full turn sooner to be able to play the thing, like quite a bit sooner. But 71% is worse than the 91%. You're taking a 20% hit. Although if you don't get it until this shuffle, then you're only like a turn and a half or so slower. So that's worth keeping in mind. But the other option on the 4-3, I think, is basically pretty much just better for most cards that you're aiming for, which is to take the plus card now. So in that case, yeah, you can draw one of the silvers, which is like kind of bad. But the only way that it's going to work out if we take the card here to where we're not going to be able to hit 5 next turn is if we draw a silver, and then, so there's 7 cards here, right? 2 silvers, 4 coppers, and an estate. The only way that we miss 5 is if we draw silver and then we bottom deck silver. So so we drew the silver, but we didn't bottom deck the silver, so we're fine. This also gives like quite good chances of hitting 6, which I apparently haven't calculated. We'll leave that as an exercise for you in the readers and or in the comments section. But yeah, pretty good chances on the 4-3 if you want to hit 6 here as well. Because you just need to not draw the silver there or bottom deck the estate here. Yeah, like good chances to hit 6 this way, and really excellent chances to hit 5, right? There's no chance to get a 5 cost on turn 2 this way, but because you're shifting your turn 3-4 shuffle to your turn 2-3 shuffle, it's really not that big of a deal that you get it turn 2 as opposed to turn 3. You're still not going to be able to play it until turn 4, with some rare exceptions of like gain to hand kind of stuff or whatever. So yeah, you're over 95% if you open silver, and take the plus card on turn 2 with the 4-3 exactly to be able to get this 5 and then have a chance to play it on turn 4, or if not turn 4, then turn 5. Pretty good chance to play it on one of those 2 turns, right? So you're looking at 4 new cards here and then 5 cards there. So that's 9 cards out of 12, 75% to play it on turn 3 or 4. Pretty good. So yeah, that's basically just better in most cases than proccing this thing turn 1. I'm sure there are edge cases. Not going to talk about those. But pretty much on the 4-3, you would want to do the plus card on turn 2, not on turn 1. However, if we zoop back to the opening here, 4-3 is not the only opening split. What about 3-4? Same questions. And the difference does matter here because we're talking about triggering a shuffle on turn 2. We have the same options though, basically, right? We can trigger it on turn 1. If we triggered it on turn 1, there is no way There is no way of hitting 5. Um, there is a way of hitting 5 on turn 2. We're 20%. There's 4 coppers in a state down here. If we draw an estate, there's a 20% chance. Then we have 4 coppers and a random card. In that case, all we need to do is draw any treasure, which is 4 out of 7. So, that gives us a 4 out of 7 chance to hit 5. Then, if we don't draw a treasure, then we still have a chance on turn 3, although it's not a great chance at that point to hit 5. That's a 1/3 chance out of the remaining, 3/7 that we didn't come up with that. So if we draw the estate on turn 1, then our chances are pretty good. This is the 5/7. We're far more likely to draw copper here, 80% to draw copper, in which case we need to draw exactly the silver on turn 2 to hit 5. That's only a 1/7 chance. The turn 3 in that case is very much like when we were talking about the 4/3 and we drew an estate. Overall, I mean, we can look at what happens here. Overall, we're pretty unlikely to hit it on turn 3. Decent chance to hit it on turn 4. To get us to, I think if I've calculated this right, it's 65.7% to have gotten a 5 cost by turn 3 at the latest. Okay, if we proc this Band of Nomads on turn 1. But again, we have the option of doing it instead of turn 1. We could do it on turn 2. So this would be like the turn 1 case, and we skip. And now, if we draw the card here, it's not exactly the same as in the 4/3 case because we have 1 fewer copper and 1 more estate in this shuffle we're triggering right now. So our chances are quite a bit worse, right? In the 4/3 case, we're looking at over 95%. Here, instead of needing to avoid only silver, right, drawing the silver and then bottom decking 1, we also need to avoid either a combination of a silver and a copper. So if we would have drawn a silver there, then if we bottom deck a copper or a silver here, we're in bad shape. If we drew a copper there, then we need to avoid bottom decking a silver here if we want to hit 5. So the chances are much worse in this case than in the 4/3, but we're still at like 2/3. And when I say like 2/3, I mean exactly 2/3. So if you go turn 2 here, it's exactly 2/3, which is like very fractionally more than triggering on turn 1. So I still think in basically both the 4/3 and the 3/4 cases, you want to use the Band of Nomads on turn 2. But whereas in the 4/3 case, you're very, very likely to get to where you want to be. You're likely to hit 6 and extremely likely to hit 5 and be just like ahead of the shuffles. You're shuffling like a turn earlier. In this case, you're only like 2/3. There is a much higher risk of ruin. So if there is a way for this favor to be useful to you later, you might consider not doing this. So yeah, just well, I mean, you could consider it in any case, but you consider a lot more strongly on the 3/4 than on the 4/3. So yeah, you just have to weigh that up when you're making your decisions. In the dark, I'd still probably trigger on turn 2, but yeah, there could be a lot of reasons why not to on the 3/4 exactly. I think that about covers it for the Band of Nomads openings. Thanks for watching.